excited to be here today. We're having such amazing conversations, such great energy in the building. It's Women's History Month, so we definitely wanted to make sure that we covered, a lot of the stories of these women who are doing such amazing things, who are conquerors and have, been through stuff in their life and changed their life and took their life back, and also who are using, things that they've learned, their career, education, everything to give back to our community. So we are uplifting voices today, and we're very, very excited about that. Yes. And our two guests that are sitting with us right now are also an example of that, a prime example, and we cannot wait to dive in and have these conversations. If you guys don't already know, I'm Sue Fearless.
And I'm Gigi.
And we make up Sit Fearlessly. Shout out to Vodkila for the sponsorship. We definitely wanted to make sure that, we sit here, we support Black and brown businesses. So Vodkila is one of them. And, we just want to sit down, take a sip, have a conversation, of authenticity, and just open up to each other and share everything that, we've been through and we've been going through, so that we can uplift you guys and empower you guys out there. All right?
And each other at the same time.
And each other. Yes. We're all about the sisterhood here. So let's dive right in. Right?
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So our ladies today are representing Sisters in Purple, Returning Hope Inc., and, they're going to share with us all of their stories and, the organization that they're running right now and what it supports and things like that. So I'm going to start off with you, Angelina. Hi. Welcome back.
Hi, Sis.
I'm so happy to have you on. And by the way, congratulations to all of you guys for being honored at the Barclay.
Thank you.
Yes, I love to see that. I love to see, the work, the hard work that you're putting in, being recognized. Yes. So congratulations.
Thank you. That was exciting. The Barclay Center was something extremely wild. I think that, I'm so used to being on platforms and being put on the spot, talking about domestic violence, doing all that stuff. When I touched that court, I was like a deer in headlights. I was like a deer in headlights. I freaked out. And they're like, oh, yeah, you have this radio interview after. And I'm like, oh, that I could do in my sleep.
Right.
That courtroom, I was like, but then I was looking for the basketball players. Where you at? We need a sponsor. Yeah, so Sue, you know me from when I founded Returning Hope Inc., which is my first organization. I literally started that coming out of a domestic violence shelter. And I realized that in the shelter, I realized that I had to now fight a system after getting out of an abusive relationship for over 8 years. And it was hard. It was something hard to swallow because I'm like, yo, this just don't feel right. Why are these people treating us like this? And my advocacy started inside that shelter. And my uncle, who's amazing, he is a lawyer. So I'm calling him up. And, I go to Theo for everything. Right. Any inconvenience, I call Theo. And I'm telling him what's going on. And I'm like, Theo, this don't feel right. These people are really treating us like trash. And I'm like, it shouldn't feel like this when you get out of a domestic violence situation, right? It should feel like I'm being reborn again, and these people that are supposed to help me want to actually help me and get me to the next step. And that's not what happened. I was introduced to a whole opposite of that. And I started Returning Hope Inc., and that took me really far. And one of my campaigns was a Speak Out campaign that I did. And ironically, that's where I met Shamara Kelly, who is one of our co-founders of Sisters in Purple. And Sisters in Purple was created because this young woman, Shanice Young, was murdered in the streets of Harlem coming home from her baby shower. Wow. And I had went to this event. He used a gun, so allegedly. He used the gun, and what happened was the gun violence organizations came. And our city has these amazing gun violence organizations that's on these streets fighting for gun violence. And they stormed the streets and they came in and they do what they do. But nobody talked about domestic violence. Right. Now, one person mentioned domestic violence, and that irked me. That set a fire under me because I'm like, yes, this is a gun violence situation due to the fact that the gun was the weapon of choice. However, this was a domestic violence because this young woman took all the steps that we tell victims to get out. She got out. She moved on with life, and this person didn't want to let her go. So I called up Shamar Kelly. I called up Erica Ewing, who's from Harlem. And I'm like, yo, we got to do something. I'm literally in the Uber. Like, they didn't do it right. And they're like, let's get it done. That's all they said to me. Let's get it done. In 2 weeks, we literally created a domestic violence march. Just so happened October was coming in, right? Everyone knows October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Yes. So October came in, and we had our first march October 1st, 2021. On the day, it was a Saturday, and we brought up the fight, and one thing happened was we had domestic violence over. So we had this Harlem packed. And I'm like, yo, we did this in 2 weeks. Imagine if we got real time. And we had the Manhattan DA there. We had liaisons there. We had the 28th Precinct. Shout out to the 28th Precinct. Community Affairs, Officer Green. He was so dope, so amazing. Had no clue who the hell we even were. But he was like, I want to work with y'all. Like, let's get it done. He shut down the streets of Harlem for us. And then we spoke to a domestic violence officer. And what she did was she shifted my gears. Because, as an advocate, my first thing is what harms victims of domestic violence, right? One of the first things that get pushed are officers. And I remember her telling me that we want to do so much, but the law doesn't allow us to. I remember I told you my uncle's a lawyer. Right. So I kind of argue like one a lot. And I'm a Leo. I like to argue. It's my thing. I will debate anybody. Even if I'm wrong, girl, bye. So when she said that, it changed my whole entire mindset because I'm like, oh, it's the law I'm going after. Got it. And then I listened to this podcast. I always suggest people listen to it. It's called No Special Duty. And it was like a podcast that started talking about what officers actually do versus what everyone thinks they're supposed to do. So when I listened to that, I'm like, and that was given to me by a lawyer from NGBV. So the mayor's office to end domestic and gender-based violence. She's like, Angie, I need you to hear this. When she sent that to me and I'm listening to it, I'm on fire. Because now my uncle and his wife are both lawyers. So I'm like on the phone, right? Because I need to know what's going on here. And I remember his wife telling me, in a courtroom, we argue language. The language in that law is not right. It can all get overturned. So I focused my gears on laws, legislations, teaming up with these council members, state assembly members, and I was so grateful to be able to team up with Assembly Member Khalil Anderson out of Far Rockaway. And he was like, hey, his team reached out, hey, we have these 2 bills that we're about to introduce and we need your help. And this was behind Destiny Smothers, a young woman who was murdered in Queens. She was stuffed inside the trunk of the car, and the car was parked. Oh my God. The family didn't find her till 5 months later. So the police had gave them this whole runaround about a missing persons report. So unfortunately, 5 months later, shout out to the nosy neighbors, the neighbors noticed that there was a car that did not move for 5 months on that block, and they called it in. And when the tow truck came, they popped the trunk. She was in the trunk of that car. So the person who, unalived her went on the run, this whole entire thing. They found him in Florida because he strangled a new girlfriend.
Oh, my God.
So fast forward, I got to work on this amazing bill, the Destiny Smothers Law. Please go check it out. And it was like my introduction. I'm like, oh no, this is everything. Like, this is something that I can't give up. I got to keep my foot on it. And now we just sit here and we hold everybody accountable. Every single system that causes harm to victims of domestic violence, victims of gun violence, and just trauma just in general, we hold everybody accountable.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's such an amazing story. And it's your call to action.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive, very full of love and wanting to help others, and full of just conquering, and just wanting to do the groundwork so that other people don't go through this. Like, that passion behind that, wow. Like, thank you for doing that. Yes. Because there's so many victims out there that are going unheard. There's so many people who have lost their lives because they weren't heard. Yes. So we need to elevate this like just like you're doing.
Yeah,
because that is
our
very
motto in
important.
Sisters in Purple is we're the ones that didn't die. So we didn't die because we're fighting for the ones that did and for the ones that are currently in it. And we just want to become the help that we didn't have. Right? We didn't have some of us didn't have a certain support system that could have been there when we needed it to be. And we just created a sisterhood. And I think that our foundation of Sisters in Purple was because me, Erica, and Shamara became friends. Like we locked in. And we took a long time to just sit down, talk about what we wanted. Education is key. Education is key, and like before I even branched out anywhere, I dove into education on domestic violence because I knew it as a survivor, I didn't know it as an educator. So in order to teach people something, I would have to know it myself. And that's what I did. And then meeting Shamara, meeting Erica, and diving education-wise with each other, making sure that we learn laws, making sure that we learn the language, making sure that we're zoned in on that. And then we were able to open up Sisters in Purple. And it was something that I was a little scared of, right? Because it's like, this is your baby, hold on. You don't let everybody in your house now. And you definitely don't let everybody touch your baby. So I was like nervous, but I'm like, yo, God got us. Like, there's no way. He didn't bring us this far to just fail us now. He got us. And when we opened up SIP, it was like just a pouring of beautiful, amazing, strong-minded business women who were like, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, but I'm a boss. And I'm ready to go.
Yes.
And when we met those women, we started a membership for SIP. And the women were like, yo, we love everything you guys are doing. We love what you stand for. And they just kept coming in. And that's how we have Angie.
Hi.
Angie being one of our members, we met Angie through the mayor's office.
Okay.
And there's certain people, you know, you meet and you're like, nah, we locked in, sis. Like, I don't even know who you really are, but we locking in.
Right.
And the moment I met her, like Angie learned very fast that when I walk into certain rooms, I'm like dead cold stone serious. I don't play about domestic violence. You're not gonna take it as a joke. We're not taking it lightly. We're not sweeping it under no rug. And she came in and I'm like, we on Zoom.
Yeah, we was on Zoom.
And me and Shamara were on the Zoom because we were all in this committee together. And she's all, hi guys, how's everyone doing? And I'm like, why is she so damn happy? Like, what is going on right now? Why is she so bubbly? And then we met her in person, and I'm like, I call Shamara, I'm like, nah, she's one of us. Yeah. She's one of us, and we locked in, and that was it. It was like history from there. And her story is crazy. I'll let her get into that, but when you hear some of her story, you won't understand why she is the way she is, because honestly, it's sent from God himself.
God is good.
Her energy, her vibe, her aura, just everything. She's literally like the light that we needed.
Make me emotional.
But I think all of our sisters have something super amazing. And one thing that sets SIP apart from a lot of women empowerment narrators is that we really truly mean what we're talking about, right? Like, this is a real sisterhood. We're on the phone with each other literally every single day. One thing I appreciate about my sisters is that I'm a bocona, right? I'm loud. I'm out there. They will humble my ass. They will humble. I'm sorry, can I curse on here?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. Yo, they would get me together. They would be like, girl, sit your ass down. And I'd be like, oh my God, all right. They'd be like, no. But we hold each other accountable. We really built this foundation where we're truly sisters. And in our events, all of our sisters have different businesses. All of our sisters do different things. And we promote that all at our events. We do a lot of events, events.
They're wonderful, actually. It's just inspirational, you know, to know that there's so many women to come together and actually created this for women to actually have that space and open up and have that positivity where it's just pouring into your life, and it's just like, oh my God, like there's really women that are really out there like that, you know, and I'm so blessed and I'm grateful, you know, that I actually met my Sisters in Purple, and it's like, I feel like we're all connected. You know, like God doesn't make any mistakes. Nope. We're all here for a reason.
It's all alignment.
Right, it's all in his name, in his vein, you know. So it's a wonderful thing to actually see that and to actually experience that. Yes. It's even more wonderful. You know, I'm just so grateful. I can't be more grateful, you know?
Oh, you made me want to cry right now.
No, I love that.
We have that effect on people.
I love that you created that community of a safe space.
Yes.
Because I think that that's what's lacking a lot of the times. People don't feel safe to have these conversations with other people who have been going through that. And if there's a support system out there, there wasn't many. I remember when I went through my own story of domestic violence, there wasn't many people I could turn to myself. So I love that you have created that space. Yeah. But let's dive into your story. Let's talk a little bit about your journey.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity. This was just like a blessing from God. You know how they say blessings they come disguised?
Yes.
This was one of those stories. It was just a blessing in disguise. God put me, I'm not going to say God, because you know the devil is a liar.
Yes.
And it's all a choice that we make, right? We all have a choice. We all have 24 hours throughout the day. We all decide on what we want to do in life, right? Sometimes we kind of become vulnerable because we just want to be loved. And we haven't had that enough in our life that we kind of like yearn to look for it.
Right.
So we kind of look in the wrong places, right? But then that's when we take back and we kind of look ourselves in the mirror and be like, okay, sit back, girl. Like, calm down. Let's take a look at yourself. Like, love yourself first.
Right.
You know, and that was actually one of the hardest things I actually did was loving myself, learning how to love myself. But just long story short, I was kidnapped with my daughter back in 2012. I was held captive for 6 months, going on 7 months. It hit the paper, New York Post, Daily News. It hit the media. I thank God that I'm here. Everything you could think of, he did. He raped me, did the whole 9 yards. He's actually doing 60 years in jail. Well, I'm counting down. He's doing less now because it's been about May 29th. I celebrate that day as if it's my birthday. So that's like another day of life that God gave me. I celebrate it like it's my birthday all month, like I celebrate October, because I'm a Libra. Oh, that's right, that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's just, you know, I don't take life for granted, you know? And as my transition, as I was going through what I was going through, you know, like Ange said, we met through voices. I'm so grateful. Because I feel like God orchestrated it.
By the way, 60 years is one of the highest sentences for domestic violence. So she actually made history.
Yes. Wow.
Thank you, Lord, because you are so good. And that's what basically started everything, you know, like me going through what I went through, me not having what I have right now is what made me want to push forward. And thank God that I found my Sisters in Purple. You know, I was connected to Voices with the mayor's office, which was such an amazing opportunity because I was able to network with people and actually tell my story, you know, voice my story, voice my voice. Let my voice be heard because, like Ange said, there's so many that are out there that are currently going through it right now and don't know how to get out of it. Yeah. You know, that are scared because they're actually scared of judgment. Yes. They fear of how people are going to look at them, you know, and it's just, it's kind of sad. Because we don't have enough support, you know? Like, people claim that they do have there's so much people, so many places that you could go to get support, but actually, when you actually get there, is there really support?
No. Right. They treat you like the law enforcement system does here.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just one of those situations where God was, like, pushing me. He was like, no, you gotta go into the voices. It's your time. Like, you gotta tell your voice. You gotta speak your voice. You gotta speak your truth. Tell your story. Let your story be heard. As horrific as it sounded, me telling my story, and I'm actually writing a book. God willingly, I could turn my book into a movie one day.
Because definitely given lifetime.
And Tyler Perry, I'm waiting for you.
Not too deep.
And Toby, I was about to say that.
But it's just, you know, something that, like I said, it was like kind of like a flower coming out of a concrete, right? Because it was like I was stuck in those cracks and I didn't know where to go, where to turn to. You know, it was like my back was against the wall. I had to start over. I had to learn how to talk. I had to learn how to walk. I couldn't walk. I was malnourished. My baby was also malnourished. She was also emaciated. It was just like a lot. You know, I went through a lot. I also went through a lot of run-ins with the system as well, with ACS and the system. It was just the whole 9 yards. We're not gonna get into too much details with that, but you know, I went through my fair share with the system, so that was another thing that actually put fuel in my system that I was like, no, this ends now, and it ends with me. Right. Like, I refuse, like, these generational curses, I'm gonna end it now. And if I could heal the world, I wish I could. You know, I wish I can give people the insight of love and that it's not the end and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, because if God did it for me, like, I'm here.
Right.
You know, like, if he did it for me, you know, I know he can do it for others, and I'm so grateful for that. And I appreciate those that actually take the time out to actually listen to that and actually follow that path, because it's one of the hardest things to actually do.
Right.
You know? It's
I think
easier
that's
said than done.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the work that you both are doing is helping those who have been through that take their life back, which is the hardest thing to do. Like, how to build, right? We talked about confidence, how to rebuild your confidence, you know, even being comfortable sharing. And that was actually going to be one of my questions. Like, you know, you guys are very brave in sharing your story because there is a lot of embarrassment attached to it.
A lot of stigma.
There is a lot of stigma attached to it. You know, how will people view me if I share my story, you know, and things like that. Just, you know, because it is going to follow you it forever. It is going to be your story forever, you know. So a lot of people have a hard time sharing that. So the fact that you're making this seem like it is okay to share it and it is okay to take your life back, and let me help you take your life back, and you'll be able to live a normal, regular life after that, you know, it's very important.
I think one of our biggest things is taking the taboo of the conversation, right? Because we are in a world where domestic violence is not a subject, right? It's kind of like what happens in this house stays in this house. You don't talk about our business outside. So when you are conditioned to believe that, as an adult, that's how you go upon your life, right? So unlearning what you know is going to be one of your biggest challenges, right? And it's not easy, I promise you. One of our biggest things is to let people know healing is a lifetime journey. No one is ever completely healed. Healing is an everyday thing, because we can be here today and we're super strong and everyone's like, you know, you guys got it. Tomorrow I could get triggered.
Yes.
Tomorrow, anything can set me back and I'm back in the place where I was, right? And it's up to me to be like, no, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna fix it. We got this. You know, a lot of survivors and victims of domestic violence, the victims of trauma, just in general, right? They suffer from CPTSD. Dealing with stuff like that is hard because no one tells you what the hell to do.
Exactly.
And I remember catching my first panic attack. I thought I was dying. I did not understand this. I was like, and I was currently still in the abusive relationship catching panic attacks. And it was to the point where I was catching them in my sleep. Like, I was waking up to these panic attacks, not knowing how to fix it. And I remember someone, I don't know if I read it or someone said it, but they're like, anxiety is a mental thing. So you have to know how to control your mental, learn how to control your breathing, and then you'll be able to control your anxiety. Like, you're gonna catch them, but you'll know how to bring yourself back. Right. And once I learned that part, I was like, oh, I got this. Like, so anytime I caught it, I was like, all right, girl, you got this. Breathe. You're fine. You're alive. You're good. And it was literally me talking myself, because your whole entire body feels like you're on the edge and you're about to fall. Wow. You ever had one of those dreams where you fall off the bed and your whole body like jumps up and you're like, oh, it's not. That's how it feels. And it's literally like someone's holding you over and you can't grasp anything. So it's understanding that healing is a lifetime journey. No one is ever fully healed, and you're gonna have triggers, and learning your triggers is gonna be one of your biggest goals in life, because right now I can literally say, first of all, God is still working through me, so don't get crazy. Okay, but I know my triggers. Right. I know my triggers, I learned my triggers, and I know what I'm gonna keep doing or what I'm gonna walk away from. Right. And once you take me there, it's like, oh no, I gotta walk away. I don't argue with people. I don't argue, because my mentality, because of the trauma that I've experienced, my mind goes into swing.
Yes.
That's it. It just, my mind tells me to swing. And I literally have to talk myself down, like, girl, you got way too much to lose. You ain't going to jail. Like, Theo's not gonna be happy with that phone call. But it's something where I will literally walk away. I'll walk away from you. Talk to yourself. I don't got time.
Right. And you know what? Let me interject real quick. I think that that's super important to know, even, you know, with different traumas that you went through, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be attached to domestic violence. I think that a lot of us don't understand what our triggers are, and we need to learn them, and we need to talk ourselves out of having a reactive response, and kind of just take a step back and analyze the situation. I think that's very important, because not only are we going to affect ourselves when we're reacting this way, but we're going to affect other people. We're going to affect the person. That person may not even understand why you're reacting so violently, right? Like that, because you're still dealing with stuff. So I think that's very important. I'm glad that you shared that. But I wanted to ask you also, what other characteristic traits have you noticed about, and you guys can both answer this, about yourselves being, having gone through that? Because I know that I have my triggers too, having gone through what I've gone through, and there's certain things that I know I cannot tolerate because it'll take me to a place. So what are some characteristic traits that you've had to change because of what you've been through?
A lot. Again, the way I had to unlearn a lot of things. Like when I talk about people unlearning things, it's for a reason, because how I was raised, I'm from the hood, okay? I'm LES, Harlem, and I will go there with you. But understanding that now I'm understanding, and I've understand once I got my sisters around me, I'm like, listen, we can't afford to get crazy, right? Because we literally are dealing with people's lives in our hands.
Right.
Because we are one of the organizations that don't tolerate much. Right. We hold everybody accountable, and on holding everybody accountable, we also got to hold ourselves accountable, right? So one thing I remember, we're going through a situation, and I'm like, yo, you can't be in this. You can't, because my sisters will leap. These women that are behind me, standing right beside me, if they feel for any ounce that I'm being disrespected, they're on go time. And I'm like, now I have to not just think about myself, but I got sisters to protect.
Right.
I have their families to protect. I got their businesses to protect. Like, we are one. And when I don't play about them, so, and I know one thing they're not gonna do is play about me. So knowing that there's certain situations I won't allow us to be in. We can't afford to be in these situations. And trust me, people test it. People test you.
Sure.
And always we look at each other and we be like, one thing Ange will be looking at people and she be like, they talk and they trying to trigger me or they trying to trigger us, and she be like, you need deliverance. It's the first thing that comes out her mouth.
I start praying.
She be like, you need deliverance. The devil's a liar. And I look at her and I just be like, eso demonio, chacho. Mira. The devil's trying it. He's playing. Okay, we're not going to let him win. So that's one thing, is understanding that we can't afford to fall out. We can't afford to do certain things. We sit in extremely high rooms. A lot of times I am the youngest person in the room, right? I am the most loudest person. So I have to make sure that they take us very serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how we hold it down. So that's one of the things I would say, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the resources that you guys are offering that you feel like was lacking when you couldn't find that support system when you were going through, the domestic violence?
Well, we do workshops. So we do workshops for women who are dealing with domestic violence. We work with people that cause harm as well. So if a woman or a man are the people that are causing the harm, we help connect them to services that they can get to, because that's one thing that people don't like to talk about.
I want to dive into too. Yeah.
We work with the youth. We have a lot of workshops with our young adults. We literally just had one with the boys.
It was amazing.
These boys stood in our room for 2 hours.
I was surprised.
And the center itself was surprised. Like, they kept coming into the room, like, seeing it, and they told us, they was like, yo, we were waiting for them to, like, get up and go. And they were like,
was so eager to learn.
Yeah. So connecting them to different services as far as housing, therapy, support groups. We host our own support groups. So connecting them in that way. And one of my biggest things that I love to do is just hold systems accountable. So I'm in a lot of committees in our city that oversee a lot of things in our city, and I become the voice for the voiceless. So that's one of the things that kind of set us apart from a lot. And we have a lot of events.
Yes,
So
yes. Well, I love that. Definitely, share with us, share with, your community, everything that you have going on, because more people need to know about this.
Yes.
More people need to know about this. And we don't have that much time left, but I do want to ask you a little bit about the aggressors that you do work with, the ones who are causing the harm, because that's something that I've always been interested in, because my story is very peculiar and different, because I still stayed in contact with the person that harmed me, and through it all, thank God we were able to build a better foundation after many years, though, like 20 plus years. But we were able to build a better foundation. And I've talked to him about that, where I feel like some of our aggressors should stand up and share their stories also. And
That's one of my favorite things to answer.
The aggressor, go ahead.
okay.
So I think one of the biggest things is when you work with people that cause harm is understanding the trauma. And when you understand trauma, you can understand what happened to them. And it's not the easiest thing, I promise you. Some advocates look at us like we're crazy because we want to address them. But I think when I first started addressing people that caused harm, it was because if we're going to tackle domestic violence, we have to tackle it in a whole,
From the source.
right?
Yes.
So if
From the source.
our city and our world focuses so much on what the survivor has to do, what the survivor didn't do, the survivor has to get out, the survivor has to start all over, the survivor, literally everything's on the survivor, right? No point were they addressing the people that are actually causing the harm. So when you leave that person go unscathed, what's gonna happen is they're gonna find a new victim.
Yes.
And they're gonna find a new victim. And they're gonna leave a trail of victims, right? That we all now have to figure out how to help, get resources, and do all of these things. So one of the things I started with was some of the people in my own family, people that caused harm, and I called it out. I called it out. And it's having those conversations. It starts off as a conversation. And what I do personally is I like to plant seeds, right? And I'll start just talking about things that I'm doing, things that I've learned, and understanding that. And then when you have people who dealt with trauma, like, so what happened to you as a child? What did you witness, right? Abuse is not something you're born knowing. It's something that's taught. So what happened in your household that you saw this? Did you see this in your community? What did you think about it? Like, did anyone address you? You know, I witnessed domestic violence growing up. No one ever stopped and told me that wasn't okay.
Right.
So when I grew up, fuck it, we was knucking and bucking in here. And it was cool because as long as I fought back, I wasn't a victim of anything.
Right.
So that's the mentality that people have. So when you don't stop them in their tracks, and sometimes I have people that cause harm, no one's ever told them that that wasn't okay. So they thought it was cool.
Right.
They can call you out your name, and everything's not physical, right? We have emotional abuse, we have mental abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse that people can hold on you. They use your children. They do certain things that can literally make you go crazy, first and foremost, right? That's what they want you to believe, that you're crazy. But no one's told these people it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And I literally was just at an event where this father was talking to me. And he's telling me how, you know, this baby mama, she's in a DV shelter. He's like, oh, I haven't seen my kid. Da, da, da. I'm like, what happened that she got in this DV shelter?
Right.
You're not going to bullshit me.
Right.
And this is how I talk to people. I talk to survivors like this. I talk to people that cause harm. Like, you're not bullshitting me. Why are we here?
Right.
What are we going to talk about now, right? And I get real serious. And they're like, no, but it was like, you caused this person harm. I need you to take responsibility for that.
Right.
And then we can go forward. But until you take responsibility for your actions, you're never gonna go forward.
Exactly.
So that's one of the things that, one of the reasons why I love, because once they be like an epiphany happens with them sometimes when they talk to me and they're like, oh, I did cause them harm. It wasn't physical abuse, but I did cause them mental harm. And, oh, I didn't realize that. All right, well, now let's talk about the services that you're going to get, because now you need therapy and you need to figure out in your life what happened there. So that's how we help and address people that cause harm.
Yeah, I like that, and I know it could be a little alarming, like, you know, like you said, when you start having those conversations, because, you know, we want to protect our conquerors and survivors, but I think that conversation is so important to be had.
Yeah.
Because there are people that come out from it on the other end. You know, the abusers and the ones that are inflicting the harm. Some of them do come out at the other end. So it's good to hear from them and what caused them and what did they go through in life, because we need to tackle that. That's the source.
Yeah,
That's the
a
source.
lot of them,
Yeah.
I've spoken to a lot of people that cause harm. The trauma that they endured is like,
Yeah.
bro, like, I understand you. I get it now.
right.
And now let's get you help, because as an
Yes.
adult, this is now your responsibility to fix.
Right.
Now you don't have the excuse, you know, what happened to you as a child was out of your control, but as an adult, this is now in your control, and
Right.
take that control back.
Exactly. Well, thank you for that. And G, I know you wanted to ask a question about healing.
So, how has the healing process for you guys been, as you guys working with victims, survivors, and helping them? Has that bettered your healing process? Does that, you know, make it easier for you guys to move forward, knowing that you guys are helping others go, you know, heal from things that you guys went through and even worse?
So for me, I love it because I feel like this is my purpose.
Right.
This is my calling. This is what God has ordained for me to do. So I'm just like living my purpose, my calling. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do get triggered sometimes because sometimes I guess we want more
Right.
for people and we don't want to see our women like this. We don't want to see people hurt anymore. You know, like I'm just so sick of it. I'm just so over it. And it's like it has to end now. Like I don't want to hear no ifs, ands, or buts. Like it just has to end now. You know? So it's kind of like I have to kind of talk myself out of it. Like, all right, calm down, you know, like these are things that you already know that you can't really change. It's just one day at a time. It is a process that we do have to encounter every single day. It's a process of knowing how to actually encounter people that actually don't get it still and are actually still in domestic violence situations, you know, and we can't really put a blame on them. We can't really blame them because it's just throughout the circumstances, the way they've been taught, like Ange said, you know, there's a lot of things that they do have to unlearn. But overall, you know, I feel like it's just an amazing feeling. I love it. There is the ups and downs to it. It can be very overwhelming.
We are fighting
because-
systems, guys.
Yeah, we are definitely fighting
We're
systems.
going up against corporate giants.
Yeah, and it's just like the domestic violence here in Brooklyn is just ridiculous. And it's just disgusting. And it's just, you know, waiting.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that
Brooklyn currently has the
so
highest
hard to
numbers of
hear.
domestic violence.
I'm sure your perspective on law enforcement has changed ever since you guys been working with, dealing with your organization, and you see how law enforcement doesn't respond to what
I
they're
actually
supposed
sit
to.
on
At all.
the national task force for NYPD and training for domestic violence. And I would say, again, I'm going to go back to the fact that our laws aren't written correctly. Our laws are not right. You know, cops have to obtain the law.
Right.
If the law is not there, then what are they obtaining?
Right.
Right? Like, that's literally what they're supposed to do. And unfortunately, we now have to hold our government accountable, right? New York City in itself, domestic violence costs us $8 billion a year. Could you imagine if we could have cut that cost, where the money could go? We're talking
Right, I
schools,
was
we're
just about
talking,
to say
you know,
schools.
recreation centers, things where our kids could be doing stuff.
Exactly.
But because our city doesn't address domestic violence the way they should be addressing domestic violence, we're spending $8 billion
That's crazy.
on domestic violence alone. So,
Crazy.
yeah.
Oh my God. We don't have much time left, but we need to have you guys back because this conversation, this is like very important, you know, and it's near and dear to my heart. So, you know,
That's literally how we met.
Yes, it's just an important conversation to have, you know, and it's been a little bit of a taboo for me because of my situation, but I'm happy that I have women like y'all that are stepping up to the plate and using your voice, you know, to help others. But I just want to say this quick little story before we wrap up. It bothers us so much that we'll even interject if it's happening outside in the streets. And I found myself interjecting a few times, which is very dangerous because you
Extremely
don't know what the
dangerous.
aggressor is doing. But that's how we get triggered also. And I've stepped in and have stopped the situation, have separated them, have had the guy walk away, and then as soon as I leave, the young lady's running after him. You know, so it's a lot that's happening, and it's a lot of self-love work that a lot of us women have to do as well. So it's so much work.
Yes.
Right.
So God bless you guys.
No,
It doesn't end.
It is so much work.
It's
that we
it's
have to do.
overall, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of work that not only do we have to do, men have to do. Domestic violence that go against men, it's really hard. It's not a conversation that many people talk about. We do hold healing events for men as well. So they could start talking about their traumas. I can't tell you how many men I actually spoke to that are victims of domestic violence.
Yes.
But those words would not leave their mouth
Right.
at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It happens a lot, yeah.
it happens a lot. It
More
does.
than we
And again,
think.
it's because of what the aggressors are learning at home from their childhood, what they're seeing at home, things like that. It all comes down to that. But let everyone know what you guys have coming up, where they can follow you, and you know also where they can get your services. if they
Yes,
need them.
you guys can follow us on at Sisters in Purple on Instagram, Facebook. My Instagram is I am Angelina Rosado. March 30th, we have our women's conference in Harlem. You guys can find our flyer on our Instagram. It is the Women Behind the Movement. Extremely a bunch of boss women in the building that are all fighting boots on ground for domestic violence, gun violence, community violence. These women are leaders in all communities. They don't just fight for the community they're from. They fight for the New York City in a whole. And it's gonna be something to remember. I can't wait. I'm so excited about this event because this event was birthed by a man who told me women don't really understand gun violence. So I decided that I'm gonna show you. So Catwoman got the cat in, and I did what I did, and I pulled a whole bunch of boss women. I'm so grateful that these women trust me enough to lead, and they're like, Ange, wherever, name a time and a place, we got it. And, you know, definitely look us up on Instagram. You guys can reach out to us on Instagram. Our email is accessesinpurple@gmail.com. If you need any type of services, please reach out to us. We got it from there.
And you're not alone.
You're not
and it's not
alone.
the end.
And we help
Yeah.
men too, so.
Yes. That is actually the message I want to leave with. You're not alone. You can work on your healing process and you can take your life back.
Yes.
And especially, you know, if you look up organizations like Sisters in Purple. So, you know, we're SIP. We're
Yes.
sisters sharing SIP. So I love
Power.
that.
SIP
We're
is
all
SIP.
connected.
Yes.
We also have memberships open. If you want to become a Sister in Purple, join the squad.
Oh, please, yes, please do, y'all. Oh my God, thank you so much, ladies, for sharing
Thank
your
you,
story. and
guys,
being
for
here.
having
I really
us.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
This was like very impactful for Women's History Month, so I really appreciate it. Yes, and this was another episode of Sip Fearlessly.
Thank
All
you.
right, y'all, take care.
Thank you. I appreciate you.